Well, you have a First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment right to do all of those things. And when you're the President of the United States, you're constitutionally charged with making sure the Constitution is protected. So you're obligated to publicly comment on those things anytime you have knowledge of them. So the idea that him publicly criticizing Mueller, publicly critiquing Mueller, publicly defending Manafort or Stone or anyone else, and then publicly questioning the different aspects of the motivation for the prosecution, that can never be obstruction of justice as a matter of law.
Well, Robert Barnes is too powerful for our own system. And so we got Robert Barnes on the phone, and the whole system basically crashed because of his power. But the good news is he's still on the phone, and he's going to be breaking down this Mueller report that came out and his response with his expertise, and then also his response to the media and these Democrats saying, oh, no, it proves Trump was guilty. It proves he did obstruct. You can't obstruct justice for a crime that didn't exist. But since when has logic been something these people have a grasp on? So Robert Barnes from Barnes Law joins me now on the phone. Robert, thanks for joining me today. Well, let's just go ahead and get your take, your response to the Mueller report right here on the Infowars.com War Room.
Sure. So, I mean, the first thing that stands out, of course, is that the entire premise of Mueller's investigation of him having special counsel authority was that there was collusion between members of the Trump campaign during the campaign and members of the Russian government. And what the Mueller report concludes is that turned out to be completely false. So it was a fictitious premise. They were investigating a crime that never occurred. They were investigating activity that never occurred. I mean, collusion by itself wouldn't even be a crime. But they found that there was no evidence of anybody, even anywhere in the Trump orbit, that committed any kind of criminal activities connected to Russian government officials or collusive activities of any kind that were even non-criminal that took place. So the standout is that even Mueller, with a bunch of Democratic hitmen on his prosecutorial team, who had every motivation to find every incriminatory piece of evidence that could conceivably exist, issued hundreds of search warrants, hundreds of subpoenas, hundreds of witnesses subject to potential criminal prosecution, investigation, and interrogation. And despite all of that, they couldn't find one scintilla of evidence against anyone in the Trump orbit or the Trump campaign that committed anything improper in any way with the Russian government. So the entire witch hunt was a witch hunt for a witch that didn't exist. And in the end, the only thing they could come up with is the Democratic partisans who wrote part of the Mueller report speculated that maybe they could reconstitute obstruction of justice theories to be that you can obstruct justice just by publicly defending yourself, or you can obstruct
let's actually hone in on this right now, because this is exactly where I wanted to go. So basically, yes, they're saying, well, Trump, how dare you defend yourself? Why didn't you just lay down? That'd be essentially like telling a victim of a rape, why didn't you just lay down and take the rape? Why'd you fight back? Well, I had the right to fight back. I punched the guy in the nose. I broke his face because I was being raped. I had the right to. Oh, no, you assaulted. Of course you wouldn't say that. But it goes beyond that. In the report, it's Trump in his office, and you've got Jody Hunt taking notes and all these people taking notes, and that gets included in the report. And it's just the president doing his job, like, hey, you do this. Hey, you do this. Hey, you do this. So here's the president doing his job. It all gets put in this report, and they say that's somehow proof of obstruction, the president doing his job?
Oh, precisely. As even liberal professor Alan Dershowitz has noted, it's impossible for a president executing his constitutional duties and obligations to constitute any form of obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice would be something like someone who happens to be the president privately bribing someone to testify a certain way in a case. That could be obstruction of justice. Or, someone who's going to be a witness, say, in a grand jury proceeding, mysteriously disappearing, as various people did in various Clinton investigations. That could be obstruction of justice if there was complicity involved. But doing your constitutional duties and performing your oversight obligations for which you were elected to perform and are constitutionally charged to do cannot constitute criminal conduct, period. And then the other aspect that's frightening because a lot of ordinary people and ordinary Americans get their legal information and their perceptions of the law and what they believe to be their knowledge about the law from high-profile cases. Is the attempt to say that publicly defending yourself somehow is obstruction of justice, publicly criticizing prosecutors or mistaken or bad conduct by prosecutors or government agents is obstruction of justice. Well, you have a First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment right to do all of those things. And when you're the President of the United States, you're constitutionally charged with making sure the Constitution is protected. So you're obligated to publicly comment on those things anytime you have knowledge of them. So the idea that him publicly criticizing Mueller, publicly critiquing Mueller, publicly defending Manafort or Stone or anyone else, and then publicly questioning the different aspects of the motivation for the prosecution, that can never be obstruction of justice as a matter of law. And the media members suggesting it otherwise are trying to distort the criminal justice process to terrify and coerce ordinary Americans and not protecting their rights.
But that's it right there. It's like you're in my mind right now. That's exactly where I wanted to go next. So they gagged Roger Stone, and he's not allowed to talk about any of this. And as you know, it's pretty good legal counsel whenever you're involved in any proceedings to just not comment on them publicly for your own benefit. You can talk about it later. But I view this as basically them saying Trump should have been gagged. There should have been a gag order on Trump, or Trump should have gagged himself. I mean, they basically want the gag order that was on Roger Stone. They're basically, through will, saying Trump should have had that same gag order. He shouldn't have been allowed to talk.
That's exactly right. And they're saying that basically if you do anything that questions or second guesses the actions of the government, it should be a crime. So it's a parallel to what they're doing in other arenas where they're saying if you question government activity, you can be sued into oblivion, if they like they're doing in some of Alex's cases, like they're doing in terms of social media, where if you question the government narrative in certain contexts, they can call you fake news and deplatform you. What they're doing here is they're saying anybody who questions the government's behavior in a criminal case, including the President of the United States, who's obligated, who controls the executive branch of the United States government, who took an oath to protect the people from abuses of that executive branch of government, commenting on abuses of that executive branch of government. I mean, it's extraordinary and extensive and dangerous what they're trying to imply. It's aside from they're obsessed with smearing Trump by misrepresentations of what was in the Mueller report, as Attorney General Barr himself recognized there was no basis to allege obstruction of justice by any recognized legal theory that exists. But they're trying to terrify and coerce Americans from questioning the government in a wider range of contexts by saying, heck, if the president did it and we could claim that's obstruction of justice, imagine what we could do to you, ordinary American, who questions what the government is doing in a criminal case.
Well, and I just look at the small scale stuff, compared to what we're talking about now, that I'm dealing with, where I have people that say things that are just abhorrently false about me, clearly just left-wing propaganda dribble, and they always go back to these lawsuits. And so I just sit back and I'm like, you know what? I could respond. I'm under no gag order. I'm not even getting counsel advice not to respond. I just figure, you know what? It's better off that I don't respond to this, and we'll let the legal proceedings speak for me. But I'm just sitting here imagining if I'm in Trump's shoes, what is the guy to do? He's getting hit by the media all day. He's getting hit by the Democrat Party all day. It's like he said with his Twitter. If he didn't have himself to defend himself, there'd be nobody defending him. They're censoring every voice out there that defends the president.
Precisely. And it's terrifying that they think they can effectively silence the president by having a member of his own executive branch conducting a criminal investigation of him that was politically motivated, politically tainted, and politically oriented throughout. So in a political case like that was really playing out in the court of public opinion, had Trump not defended himself publicly, he would be politically obliterated, and that report could have turned out different. I mean, they could have manufactured charges or had the confidence to move against him in ways they did not, because he had defended himself publicly, because he had defended it. The reason why the government hates it when people are publicly critical of their activities, particularly when they're the target of an investigation or a criminal case, is because they know how effective it is. That people realize, hold on, something might be wrong here, something might be askew here, something might be missed here. And that's what people realized with Mueller. Mueller was overstepping his bounds in the way he was doing SWAT raids and search warrant executions and targeting.
So that's
people.
Perfect. So I swear we did not even talk before this segment, and it's like Robert Barnes from Barnes Law is in my head. That's where I want to go on the other side of this break here, Robert. Now let's look at the very least incredulousness of this investigation, but perhaps even the illegality, or for sure the illegality. It's Robert Barnes at Barnes_law on Twitter. BarnesLawLLP.com is his website. Well, first, the Democrats lost an election that they rigged in 2016 for Hillary Clinton. Then they lost an investigation that they rigged in 2016, 17, 18, and 19 to destroy Donald Trump. Boy, that must be embarrassing. But as embarrassing as that may be, what is really awful about this situation is all the lawlessness that allowed these things to happen. Robert Barnes is with us, lawyer, giant slayer, legal crusader. His website, BarnesLawLLP.com, at Barnes_law on Twitter, and he is a good follow there. So, Robert, I want to get into now the illegalities of the very premise of this Mueller investigation. Now, they want to really kind of tiptoe and do a synchronized dance around the origins of this investigation, around the origins of the claim that Trump colluded with Russia. So we have kind of these different bouncing balls that they want to get us to follow. WikiLeaks, the DNC hack, or was it the dossier? Was it that? And they don't really want to go down either of those avenues, even though that's all they have, because they know both of those avenues lead right back to who? The Democrats. So, Robert, looking at the origin and the basis for this investigation, where do you even see the legal framework for this to start?
Well, clearly it wasn't the case. From the get-go, my take on Mueller was that this real purpose of Mueller's investigation was to cover up all the illicit methods of investigation that had taken place during the campaign by corrupt members of the Obama administration, including at the CIA, the NSA, and at the seventh floor of the FBI. And basically, his goal was to launder and whitewash Spygate. And the only way he could do that is by finding excuses for the investigation, by finding some, people to target that he could put on the board and say, well, because of Paul Manafort, this was all justified. When Paul Manafort is sort of par for the course in Washington, D.C. And the bottom line is what he was mostly obsessed with covering up. And here's the giveaway in the Mueller report is not what's in the Mueller report, but what's not in the Mueller report. What's not in the Mueller report is references to the Steele dossier and its whole history and its notorious unveiling and its implicit involvement with the FBI in terms of corrupt, complicit connections with Ukrainian oligarchs, helping to fund it with the Clinton campaign, laundering money through the Perkins Co. law firm to fund it through Fusion GPS. No, almost none of that is in there. Almost nothing about Spygate is in there. Almost nothing about the illicit NSA activities that took place are in there. And that's because the real goal of Mueller was to whitewash his deep state buddies and pals, of which he's been a part for the better part of 3 decades on both sides, Democratic and Republican political establishment, and that he effectively achieved. That's what he was really there. It was like a massive diversion campaign to create this fake story of Russia collusion to whitewash and justify and help defend James Comey from all of the illicit activities he allowed the FBI to get in bed with Clapper and Brennan and in the Obama administration when they illicitly spied and used the Five Eyes relationship between the UK and Australia to illicitly spy on the Trump campaign. I mean, they admit here the main guy that was the target of all those FISA warrants that allowed them to do this massive surveillance on Americans during a political campaign was Carter Page. And they admit there was no evidence of any kind at any time to suggest Carter Page ever did anything working on behalf of the Russian government in any way, in any shape, in any capacity.
This is incredible. You're now literally 5 for 5 reading my mind. This is where I wanted to go next. So they set up George Papadopoulos and they set up Carter Page because they knew the 2 avenues that they would have claimed were the streets they went down to begin this investigation. That's the WikiLeaks releases. That obviously wasn't a Russia hack. They knew that. They didn't want that to be the basis. The Steele dossier, the PP-Gate dossier, they didn't want that to be their claimed origin either because they know that's all fake and that all came out. So they literally sent federal agents to set up Carter Page and George Papadopoulos. So Now, what are we talking about, Robert Barnes? I mean, now we're talking about something else entirely.
It was an extensive, expansive, extraordinary subterfuge and sabotage campaign effort, the kind you would normally only see during the Soviet, Cold War era of the U.S. or the KGB going at each other. And they did it all against the Trump campaign and picked off the most vulnerable targets. Vulnerable not because they did anything wrong, but vulnerable because they're sort of naive and idealistic about the way the world works. Carter,
oh my gosh! And look, and I'm so glad you said that. And we won't get into it, but Papadopoulos and Carter Page weren't the only targets, folks. They tried to set up some of your favorite people as well. They just didn't fall for it. But yeah, go ahead.
That's exactly the case. I had a range of people who had reached out to me during the campaign that were connected to various aspects of success in the social media space, very successful in the prominent independent press space, who were targeted and solicited by a wide range of actors who were trying to set them up to try to create a fake news story that didn't exist and create a fake criminal investigation that wouldn't otherwise exist. It was a classic entrapment campaign, the kind that, where they got Marion Barry, where it's the girlfriend he wants to hook up with, and she's the one who gets him to do crack on TV. That's your classic version of entrapment, but it was that times 10. And the beauty of it, the brilliance of it was so weak in its factual predicate that almost nobody bought. They couldn't actually influence anybody in the Trump campaign. They couldn't influence anybody in the Trump camp affiliate world or the Trump camp associate world. And it's sort of like weapons of mass destruction.
And their media campaign failed, and it's all on record. So final question for you, Robert Barnes, BarnesLawLLP.com, @Barnes_law on Twitter. In the final 2 minutes here, what do you think comes next? What happens now? What is the next big development on the back end of this Mueller release?
If Attorney General Barr wants to restore faith and confidence in the FBI, the Department of Justice, the CIA, and the NSA, then it's his obligation to investigate and prosecute people who were part of this at the highest level, including high-ranking agents, high-ranking lawyers, people like Sally Yates, people like Peter Strzok, people like Lisa Page, people like John Brennan, people like Jim Clapper, all need to be subject to criminal investigation and prosecution to restore confidence and faith that our justice system is not a partisan hack machine on behalf of politically corrupt actors like the Clinton machine was and the Obama government was in the last years of its reign.
And I don't think, unless we get that, I just don't see how this nation ever recovers or ever realizes its full purpose again when we have a rogue federal government that will just enforce its will upon its political enemies at any time.
Exactly. Russia collusion is to trust and confidence in the U.S. government what weapons of mass destruction hoax was to confidence in war propaganda.
Well, you're absolutely spot on as far as I can tell. And, folks, you can follow him again on Twitter @Barnes_law. He is a great follow there, BarnesLawLLP.com. And, we got him on air today to talk about his legal expertise in response to this Mueller report. But Robert Barnes is doing great work to stand up for Nicholas Sandmann and the Covington Catholic boys as well. All right, Robert, I wish you could see the graphic that we pulled up for you here. But we basically have a new meme for you. It's you with the laser eyes and then the precisely meme under it. So I just want you to know that we have that prepared for you when you come on the phone.
Fantastic.
All right, Robert Barnes, there he goes. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on with us today. All right, when we come back, we've got an individual who is filming illegal immigration rampant at the border.
Getting your protein has never been easier with InfoWars Life Protein Bars. Available in delicious chocolate peanut butter and vanilla coconut flavors, these protein bars are the perfect answer for a snack on the go. InfoWars Life Protein Bars are nutrient-packed, portable protein bars for an easy-to-eat and great-tasting meal. Pre- or post-workout fuel alternative. At just 240 calories per bar and 15 grams of protein each, these bars will be your favorite at-hand snack for at home, in the car, at work, or on the go. For getting nutrients easily. High in fiber and nutrients with wholesome ingredients for high-level performance with great taste, such as whey protein and chocolate compounds. These protein bars can help you with the boost you need to reach your goals. Protein-packed and full of fiber and healthy ingredients, InfoWars Life Protein Bars are a can't-miss snack for any InfoWarrior serious about their energy. Try both flavors today at InfoWarsStore.com.
It's It's time to show them what a real alpha male looks like with one of our most powerful products ever made, Alpha Power, at 50% off. As you age, your body can lose testosterone over time. With the incredible ingredients in this formula, we can help you beat the test of time and assist in restoring that lost energy and mood that comes with time and age. Alpha Power's incredible ingredients can help you boost your sports performance or enhance your day-to-day life with ease while encouraging hormonal balance. Perfect by itself or with super male vitality in the true Alpha Male Pack. Alpha Power can help boost performance, help maintain normal testosterone levels, support healthy cholesterol, and more. Let Alpha Power help bring you to the peak of your optimal health. Don't fall short on energy in the fight against tyranny. Show the world what a true alpha male looks like today with Alpha Power at 50% off, only at the InfoWars store.